Hi, welcome to the podcast, Beyond the Ballot, a Lone Wolf production. This is where we showcase local politics by providing a platform for elected officials and candidates. Today's episode is sponsored by Carol Cirieco of Houlihan Lawrence. Carol, as a real estate salesperson and with the resources of Houlihan Lawrence being the real estate leader north of New York City, she can guide you through the possibly most stressful time in your life. Whether you're looking to buy or sell a house, she will competently and compassionately guide you through the local real estate process, facilitating your ultimate decision with sound financial expertise, solid market knowledge, and honest advice. Please visit the website at carolcirieco.houlihanlawrence.com. So today I'm proud to introduce the guest, Anthony Cirieco, Town Councilman of Somers, re-elect. Welcome to the show, Anthony.
Hello, Dominique. Nice to see you.
So let's start with the getting to know you questions. Tell us about your personal background. How long have you lived in Somers, and what do you think makes this area so special?
Well, I've lived in Somers since 1983, and I've been on the town board and the school board for over 18 years. 6 years as a school board representative, and 12 years so far as a town councilman. I was born in Yonkers, local boy all the way. Went to Manhattan College and Iona College, so a local again. I met my wife, Carol. She lived in Yonkers as well. And so we moved to Somers in 1983, and we've brought up our family here. And I have to say that Somers is a wonderful place to live. My kids are all that they can be, and they've made it a life for themselves, and I'm blessed that they are all local. So very nice.
And you have grandchildren as well.
I'm a grandparent twice, and they're young. So we're, they keep your hands full, but we love it.
So who were your mentors or role models in your life that have made a difference?
Wow, that's a good question. Well, of course, parents, mom and dad, Elsie and Joe, they were first generation Italians, 146 Crescent Place, Yonkers, New York. They were just devoted to their family. I was the first of our family to go to college. We were drilled, my brother and I, that you're going to college, you're going to college. He has a dental practice in Eastchester, Bronxville area. Myself, I went to Manhattan College and I studied accounting and finance. And so they were just two awesome people. And, they were very generous. They were both in the garment industry and very talented. My mom and dad, just for their families and friends, they made wedding dresses. They made my wife's wedding dress and
Wow.
all my children's wedding dresses, their friends. And it was just, an amazing place to grow up.
That's really something.
Yeah.
And they must be really proud of you and your family.
It was a great life, there. I mean, they met, during the war, and they settled up in Yonkers. They were originally from the Arthur Avenue.
Which war was it? World War II?
World War II, yes. My dad was in the Navy. And, they moved up to Yonkers, when he got out of the war. And, as it turned out, my grandfather passed away, at that time. And so he was anchored in Yonkers. He stayed at the house, and his mom and his young sister lived there as well. So I have an aunt, and she's like a sister, and we still keep in contact very much. So it was a great life.
So family is very important to you.
Family's very important.
And lastly, is there anything about yourself that people might not know or find interesting?
Well, as I moved in my career, I was in an international setting. So, I've been to over 30 countries.
Wow.
And, it shaped my career. Dealing with different people and different cultures, you just learn how to, message with people, because message sent and message received are different depending on who you're dealing with, their culture, background, and how to get things done. So right. that was a very, very an important part of my life.
Out of all the countries that you have visited, are there any particular ones that you've revisited that you really enjoy? Like, what's the top country in your opinion?
Well, when I say international to you, everybody probably thinks Europe. But
I was thinking Japan, to be honest with you.
well,
Yeah.
Asia's bustling. So I've been out throughout Asia, Tokyo, Singapore, and also Sydney, Australia, Hong Kong at the time before it was transitioned to, the Chinese have taken a bigger role there at this point. South America, Buenos Aires was very interesting. It's a very European city.
Right. And a lot of Italians are in Argentina.
A lot of Italians are in Argentina. Visited Uruguay, which is sort of a small country, but very, very nice, very, very nice, and the people are wonderful.
All right, let's get down to business.
Okay.
So tell us about your professional experience and how it has specifically prepared you for the role of town councilman.
Well, it's all about people, right? You work with people, and you have to influence people along the way. And the job for me, the technical aspect of the job, running the day-to-day business and understanding the financials and how that thing all works is one part of it. But when you're working in this setting, you have to deal with people and influence them on your point of view to get things done. So my job, I think, as a CFO and working in that setting, I'm working across multiple functions. You have to have a point of view. Have to understand the business, and you have to have conviction in a sense in how to get things done. And you have to work with people in a way that you make them successful, which is, very, very important. As a CFO, I'd have to wear the black hat. We'd have to take up issues with people and keep things in place. But I've always taken the position that I'm trying to make you successful. And that has really been a very important lesson in my life. So when people know that you're interested in their success and you're trying to make the organization successful, you are successful.
So what caused you to initially run as town councilman, and what continues to be your motivation?
So that's interesting. I was in transition for a period of time after MCI was acquired by Verizon. So, I went back, I said to myself, gee, I have to improve my communication skills. I want to be out there and networking. So Carol, my wife, who was a social animal and very well, anchored in town, she's actually the Cirieco brand. She said, well, why don't you run for school board?
Behind every great woman is what is that saying?
Behind every man is a great woman.
Yeah.
And this is absolutely the case. Because when I was running, they were asking me, what's your platform going to be? So I was never home. And so I said, Jesus, what am I going to say? I said, well, I'm going to run as Mr. Carroll. And she was so well known in town, she got me elected. And she still does. So when you go to my palm card, you open it up and they say, who is this guy? And they open up and they see Carol inside. They said, oh yeah, it's Carol. I'll vote for him. He's okay. Yeah.
So what is your favorite part of being a town councilman?
It's about getting things done. And again, it's about the people. I mean, it's wonderful people we're working with, but it's about getting things done. Being a town councilman, you have the opportunity to shape the community. It's strategic. In the school district, the mandate is educate children, try to do this at the least expensive way that you can, and you're working with families. As a town councilman, you're making decisions that strategically affect the entire town. If we put a development here and there's a lot of children and infrastructure required, that affects the school, that affects the fire department, and affects the look and well-being of the community in the future. So some of the things you do, you don't really understand how that's going to look 10, 15 years from now, but you're thinking about that.
It's more tangible.
Yes. So doing that type of work and making a difference, I think, it's important. And I have to say that my background, working in the school district, understanding the finances and the impacts across the entire community, I have a good sense of what works and what doesn't work. some of the challenging things that we're dealing with are going to have impacts on school, are going to have impacts on fire departments, and knowing how to do that in a way so you don't blow up the community, in a sense that taxes go up,
Right.
very quickly and very onerously. So you need to have smart growth, and you have to do it in a systematic way. And so I think, working as a town councilman has been a great format to do that.
So I've had two of your running mates on the show, Rob Scarano, town supervisor, and Bill Faulkner, town councilman, in which they did a fantastic job talking about the accomplishments that you guys have achieved for Somers. That being said, I would love for you to reiterate some of your accomplishments from your tenure and maybe touch on some that we might have missed. Which accomplishments are you most proud of?
Okay, so they did a great job on explaining what the accomplishments are, and for the town and for ourselves. And I think we'll cover that a little bit. But for myself, the conservation easement for Stewart's Apple Orchard. At the time, we had just finished some development up on Route 6, putting in some density up there. And by the way, that was accordance to our master plan. But the farm was in transition. He had a sister that owned half the farm. He had to buy her out. She was in California, and he needed working capital to make that thing work. And so, four different agencies got together: the town, the county, and two agencies at the state, and we bought the development rights for about maybe $3 million or so at the time. And the town's contribution was about $300,000 or $400,000. I was the deciding vote at the time. But I thought, look, this is a beautiful setting. It's a small business, family owned, agricultural, an agricultural historic place in the town. And I said, this is a good thing to do. And so, that came together. And so now we have, an apple orchard, a food supply in Somers, and it's very popular. So that was one of the things that I thought was, an important thing.
Now, what about one of the accomplishments being lowest tax town in Westchester, and you were able to stay under the tax cap? I know Bill had spoke to that.
Sure, we're a very affordable community, and this is due to our management. We've been able to stay under the tax cap, but you have to ask yourself, how does that happen, right? And so I'll go back and think about Mary Beth Murphy at the time. She was very she wanted to keep the town very, very fiscally responsible. And so, she sort of set the tone. To be under the tax cap and have a AAA bond rating, you have to, have a great grant program, because you're building infrastructure and essentially you're getting money from, other agencies within the county. You have to have a value system where you don't get out in front of your headlights. We don't overspend. We don't tax up to our full capacity. And the bias in government is to spend every dollar you have, because if you don't, you're going to lose it.
Is that the truth, though?
I think so. Yeah. Yes. And in my setting, with my financial background, I understand the numbers that I can, with conviction, advocate that we shouldn't be taxing up to the full tax cap. And over that 10-year periods, when our financial people had calculated that we saved, millions and millions of dollars to the taxpayer. So on one hand, if you don't tax up to the capacity, you lose the ability to spend as a government entity. But the other side of it, you're saving the taxpayer money. And so that's what makes, Somers an affordable place. And, we have a good understanding on how to execute on that. So we're very proud of being able to operate like that. And that doesn't happen over one or two periods or election cycles. Between Mary Beth Murphy, Rick Morrissey, and Rob Scarano, everybody's very much, and the town board, and Bill as well. We've signed on to that value proposition.
Now, when the taxpayers of Somers, when they have that relief, I had this conversation yesterday with my husband about properties getting reassessed.
Yes.
They get reassessed every year. Would anyone consider reassessing people's homes maybe on a 3 or 5 year basis rather than the 1 year?
So that's an interesting concept. Each town does it differently. In Putnam, you're doing that every year.
Yeah.
We don't do that in
Okay.
Somers. In Somers, we have an assessment system, and essentially the assessments stay the same. The only way your assessments change is if you improve your property. So if you do additions and
Right.
bathrooms and so on, they may come in and say, the value of the house has gone up.
So
but
yours is
that's
not done on a yearly basis.
It's not done on a yearly basis, and I'm sort of opposed to that.
Yeah.
Because there's no stability. People don't know what's happening. Everything's changing. Now, from a technical point of view, our tax system relative to our assessment system is statistically okay, so to speak. Sometimes that gets out of line. And when that gets out of line, that's when the concept of reintroducing a reassessment process in taxes, take place. But that's not the case in Somers, and I wouldn't be an advocate for that.
Okay. If I had another guest come on the show, revisit us, I probably would have posed that question. I didn't,
That's fine. I think it's important that, people understand. I mean, from a civic point of view, when I speak in front of folks, particularly up at Heritage Hills, we talk about taxes, and that, the school makes up 3/4 of the taxes. The other 25% is made up by the town and the fire department and the county being the largest of those three. But essentially, you create a budget, which is like a pizza pie, and then you divide it up into pieces, and that's how everybody gets taxed, by each piece. But if somebody backs out,
Mm-hmm.
like if you have a development that, like an IBM, that gets a tax certiorari to lower their assessments, that money that goes down on their side gets shifted to everybody else.
right,
And so everybody else's taxes go up.
to compensate. Right.
But it's the same budget. So it's very important that we have smart growth, because as that's going on, you want to be adding new assessment values to the role, and that's where building new developments and so on are important.
Gotcha. Now, you touched on grant writing.
Yes.
You were able to secure $5 million in grants for infrastructure improvements.
Grants are very important for the development of the town, and we get things done. The key with grants are, two things. One, you have to be patient, because it takes time. And through the use of grants, we've put sidewalks in.
Specifically on Route 202.
Yes, and we've put water infrastructure, sewers, in place, and so that's important as well. I would also say, as part of this process, and this sort of a little bit goes back to one of the things I'm proud of, the revitalization of the Somers, the business district and the Somers Town Center. Essentially, when we did that, we came on board. I came on board in 2012. The builders came in. They were kind of thinking about this. And we said as a town board, look, we need to revitalize this. I like the idea of creating a destination. So part of the prerequisites is we wanted something like a DeChico's to come in to bring people into the town. And so as part of that, we developed that. We brought in sewer and water from Heritage Hills into the into that district, and we built the sidewalks. And so why I'm discussing this as part of the grant money, these are community benefits. So as part of that altering the zoning, we asked the builders to come up with over $2 million of contributions, bring the sewers in, build the sidewalks, okay, and the whole project is prerequisited on a DeChico's or a Chair to Joe's, happened to be DeChico's, which was going to create a new destination. So it was very important. So community benefits is as important as grants.
And it's very busy down there.
It's
always
very busy down there
bustling.
now.
Also, another point that I came across while doing my research, added experienced Somers police personnel and ensured that the continued presence of New York State Police in Somers by developing a plan for the construction of a new New York State Police barracks at no cost to the taxpayer.
Yes. So, I want to, this is where I give Rob a lot of credit. There were a couple of projects when he got on board that were sort of in the red zone, so to speak, from a football, so they're on the 20-yard line. And the reason why that's the case is that there's multiple agencies that you have to convince to do things to make something happen. So with regards to the police barracks, that's been going on for many, many years. We need to work with the fire department, who had the land there, and you have to give the fire department a lot of credit in this process as well. So we did that. We had to work with New York State. They wanted to buy, they wanted a lease, they want to buy. We said, look, we have a strong balance sheet. If we have to go down the lease road, we'll put it on our balance sheet as long as you pay for everything over time. And so that was one proposition. More recently, they're back to their buying now. So we're going to sign the deal, and essentially they're going to come on board and they're going to do the construction and build it. But what's really, really important is that we have a police presence, a state police presence in our area that do all the heavy lifting for us. They do all the investigative work, all the stuff that might take place that we need in the town from that agency. Our police department, it's a full-time force manned by professional part-timers. They're out there event management. They're the face of our town board to the community. And they do get involved with some, dangerous things like domestic disputes and things of that nature, which, most people don't understand that even in a town like Somers, we do have some challenging things. And so let me just divert to things like Partners in Prevention, which is a drug awareness, committee that I'm on. And also there's a mental health committee as well, and a Somers Community Council. These are all quality of life committees that, we're doing in town that essentially are extension of what happens with the police. Mm-hmm. And, we're looking to improve quality of life. And so that's one of the things that, we've done as a town board that don't get as much visibility as, did you build a shopping center, or when are you going to put in a sewer district or something of that nature?
Right. So what are some of the challenges that you have faced as a town councilman?
Well, it goes back to people again. If I get 51 votes, it's a good day, right? Everything that you do has opposition. And, you have to have the conviction and sort of a vision when you take this job to understand what you want to accomplish, how are you going to influence the people around you, and to get that done. And then you need to communicate with the public, and you have to do it in a way that you feel it's the right thing to do. Mm-hmm. And that works out, but it does has its challenges, because when you do something, it always seems when it gets down to the last part of the program where you're going to introduce something, everybody shows up. And that's important. That's important. I mean, we've had that happen at the battery situation where, this is a little bit different than what I'm speaking about, but, this is a home rule, issue. But when that came, before the town board, we circled around it, and the community was very helpful in us getting that done as well. And we said, look, this is really a silly thing to do. They want you to, the state has a mandate to put these things all over the place to run safe, and so we hired an attorney, and we put some town money behind it to basically defend our border, and it worked out well for us. So, if
you're reelected, what goals or ambitions do you have for the town of Somers?
Well, Again, it's, I think, the quality of life issues. I think autonomy is important. And I think that, the continuation of managing our finances, keeping us one of the low tax towns, in Westchester, I think that's an important part of what we have to do. I think,
and that's not a political issue whatsoever.
No, it's not. I mean, I heard Rob talk about, it doesn't matter whether you're Democrat or Republican. I mean, essentially, I've won with a good percentage of the votes, and I think I get a lot of opposition party people voting for us because we're not dealing with the political aspects of what's
not
going
the national issues.
No, this is important. It makes sense for the community. Being one of the lowest tax town, improving infrastructure, improving service levels like we were talking about for nutrition and our seniors. Those are all things that make sense for everybody. But I think you may touch upon this, but protecting home rule has become something that's an important aspect of what's going to be important for us over the next session, and then also close out some of these things that are happening. Get that police barracks set up. We have some things that we want to do in the recreation area at Reese Park. I think that's underway. We've got to close out some grants. So all that's in place. And I think continuity of the group that we have in place, as I alluded to before, this doesn't happen between, one session or 1 4-year period or 1 2-year period. We've had great leadership between Mary Beth, Rick Morrissey, and now Rob Scarano. And so it's important for us and the town to keep that going.
Same leadership.
Sure.
I just want to take a brief moment to kindly thank the sponsor of today's episode, Carol Cirieco of Houlihan Lawrence. Carol, as a real estate salesperson and with the resources of Houlihan Lawrence being the real estate leader north of New York City, she can guide you through possibly the most stressful time in your life. Whether you're looking to buy or sell a house, she will competently and compassionately guide you through the local real estate process, facilitating your ultimate decision with sound financial expertise, solid market knowledge, and honest advice. Please visit the website at carolcirieco.houlihanlawrence.com. Okay. So
thank you for that.
So transparency is a topic that's discussed in almost every episode of this show. It is the buzzword in the political sphere. Do you think you have always operated with full transparency?
Without a doubt. I mean, I think transparency starts with showing up, being approachable. People call me, I return calls. I'm involved in committees, town. I encourage people to come up, stop me along the way and say, what do you think about this? And what do you think about that? That's the first part of transparency. Second part is, everything is on the town boards. We have social media. You've seen some of the things that we've done. Rob has been doing some things on NYSEG. I've done some things on my campaign, introduced the candidate. So Facebook and that type of thing is also important. But I always direct people back to the town website. There are things going on, and then there's the meetings that we have. I would say that as a town board and just as a policy and practice, when you open things up to a public comment, that's a 3-minute process. But we give people the process, the ability to express themselves, and complain. Which is fine. And I would also say, go back to the battery park. We had people from Putnam County come by and come before us. And this is not typically, a town resident. But we said, express yourself. Where in some other, other boards, they wouldn't let you speak unless you were in, a resident of that town. So, again, that's important. But there's another aspect to this. It's a responsibility of the individual or the community member, as part of that transparency. You have to educate yourself what's going on. You have to read newspapers, because everything is discussed. There's
continued education.
Yeah, I mean, it's said. You said democracy requires an educated electorate. I think we've gone off the wheels, in some respects here, between Point of View TV and all these things that are going on. Read newspapers, speak to your representatives. We all show up. I have to say, no matter who your political, affiliations are, I mean, guys like Lawler show up, even though it's controversial. I mean, Harcum, he's not on our team, but he shows up.
Right.
Some of the other folks, even our opponents, I mean, they're not to be seen. That's so transparency, requires it's a two-way street. And we always have to be biased and sort of, lean towards being extra open.
Right. And encourage community engagement.
Encourage community engagement. And, we'll be there, to deal with that.
So we did briefly discuss home rule, right? One of the most significant accomplishments, in my opinion, was the act of defending home rule for Somers in regard to the lithium battery facility. Could you elaborate on what the importance is with maintaining home rule and maybe also touch on some of the ways that Albany has tried to infringe upon Somers? Yeah,
I mean, home rule is really about being able to have a certain level of autonomy to execute, around the ordinances and the laws and zoning, in your community. But over the years, I mean, New York State's become a very top-down type of, government. So, things like transit-oriented development, that affected zoning, we've had to push back and, that was successly, that's actually accomplished. Go back to the battery farm where they're trying to introduce these type of systems because of the green goals that they have.
Goal for electrification of New York State, right?
Yeah, so that's that's another another type of
of an agenda that they have.
Yes,
right.
And this is not new. When I first came on board, we weren't talking about this at the time, but the federal government had a monitor that was suing, Westchester County, essentially saying that their zoning was discriminatory. And Rob Astorino pushed back on that. But the whole idea was, in that setting, was that they were going to come down with a top-down zoning ordinance and say you have to put a certain amount of density anywhere.
It's kind of unconstitutional.
Well, I don't know legally whether it's constitutional or unconstitutional, but this is what happens, in this situation. And so that mantra has been picked up by Albany with a different type of a direction, and essentially transit-oriented directly, where you have housing issues that have come to be very important for this community, for this state, for a whole bunch of reasons that, immigration policies and just, and the like. We need housing. So in order for them to get that done, they try to, execute that from the top down. Where here, we're a rural community, we're mostly on septic. We're a watershed area for the entire New York City, community, and open spaces and our ability to maintain the resources, our water resources and our environmental resources are dependent upon how we're zoned. And so it's very important that we weigh in and have the ability to do what's important for us.
Right.
So
I think, local town level officials would know what's best for the community because they're there every day representing everyone.
Yes. So, it's, and to do something like this, Dee, I mean, it takes a little bit of an experience. If you're new at this, you don't just know how to get that done. The fact that we have contacts and relationships all throughout government on both sides of the aisle, we just know how to get those things done. But we're also, we also have the ability to understand that you can kind of see around the corner when something's developing, that you need to get out in front of that because, that's important. And that's happening up at New York State right now, where they're trying to change some of the legislation as it relates to how you tax, solar farms, for instance. So that's a form of subsidy. Essentially, what they're doing is saying, here's the rules on how you calculate the assessment. Well, I might calculate the assessment on the value of it. They'll say, well, this is how you calculate it, and it turns out to be a subsidy.
Right. All right. So who's picking up the slack from the subsidy?
It's an unfunded mandate.
Right.
So, yeah. So, but the experience of our board, and our relationships within the community, Matt Slater has done a great job representing us as well. And this is what why it's important, I think, to keep this team in place.
You and the other town board members have been advocating for the people of Somers in regard to the NYSEG rate increases. I know I sound like a broken record every time on the show. I talk about how much it has affected me.
Sure.
I said it last time. My budget billing is $770 a month. I'll say it again. January I paid $1,400. February I paid $1,400. I was away for a week, wasn't even here, and my bill was $1,400. And even last week when we were filming with Bill, I should have mentioned it. We were freezing down here. Uh-huh. I did put on the heat today.
Thank you.
So I have personally have been affected by these rate increases. So it just makes me sick thinking about it. So do you think we'll ever see any relief from this?
So first I'm going to say, if you want me to look at your electric bill, I will do that for you and see if we can unravel it and understand what's going on. It's
mostly, my understanding is the delivery charge.
Yes. Yeah. So again, complex, but, I would say to you that I don't think it's going to get better. I mean, it's for a lot of reasons. I think what our goal is essentially to change the trajectory to lower the rate increases. The reason why we're here is because of many, many years of policy that
failed policy?
Well, I would say we're pursuing policy without having an affordability agenda included with this. Do anything, but don't worry about what the implications are to the people that have to pay for it.
Right, put the cart before the horse.
Yes.
Right.
So, what's going on right now is that, there are green mandates. And in the papers, I've said, look, I'm not against green, but I think you have to consider the affordability of what you're asking us to do and what the practical aspects of how you're going to implement that. And that goes back to Somers. I mean, the way we govern, we're a very pragmatic government body. We do things that make sense that we can get done. What's happening in this setting right now? We've coming off of a time where they've closed down Indian Point, mm-hmm. and they had no plan to replace that. Replace that power. So what's happening right now is that they're putting mandates in here to electrify school buses. They want even our plows to be electrified, to go through a process of having to charge that and maintain those systems. We don't have the capacity for that. So,
and the cost of those vehicles.
Yeah, it's very expensive. Very expensive. So, what's happening with NYSEG is that they're coming before the Public Service Commission for the third cycle of huge increases, anywhere from 25 to 35%, depending on whether you're a NYSEG or, Con Edison. And we've been very vocal, to oppose this. And it's like almost diabolical. I mean, essentially, we've just completed a cycle of 25% increases. They're asking for a new cycle of 25% increases. And then in between that, they've overlaid flow-through charges for a storm-related hundreds of millions of dollars.
To support the renewable energy activities?
Well, this is for storm damages that were on their balance sheet, hundreds of millions of dollars. So they turn around and say, okay, you can now bill the customer, X amount. So you have a recovery charge in there. You also have a charge in there for hundreds of millions of dollars of uncollectibles that were incurred during COVID, where they weren't able to collect money from residents. Now, 30%, asking for 30%, and then you put these two other things on top of that. And then also what's in those overlay charges, It's called, not to get technical, it's the SBC charge, but it's the green energy NYSERDA funding that gets charged. And that's going up as well. And what just for me as a financial guy, what really kind of burns me is that they charge sales tax on all those fees that they incur. So it's like it becomes like a way to raise money.
Right.
Increase the fee, and then we'll put sales tax on top of that. And but the point is that we have to push back on the Public Service Commission. And really what's going on there, again, is that the Service Commission has to really represent, the taxpayer and the ratepayer.
Right. But how do you know that they will?
Well, they haven't if they're approving all this stuff. The issue for them is, though, you have a legislature there that passes legislation that says we have these green goals. In order to get these green goals, we need to build infrastructure. So the Public Service Commission is executing on a legislative mandate. If they have to build the infrastructure, they have to turn around and say, look, we have to let them, charge the ratepayer to do all this. My point to them is, look, give them an increase for inflation, and let's get back to the table and kind of talk this through and see what's practical and how can we get this done and do this over a period of time, and don't put the burden on the individuals.
Yeah, because it's bleeding. It's really bleeding the taxpayer. I mean, people have mortgage payments. Maybe they're putting off going on vacation now. Like once, maybe they used to do certain leisurely activities, and now that's taking the back seat. Because of these expenses.
Without that, we have people in Heritage Hills during the winter. They come up and they cry to us. Yeah. They're crying.
I'm going to cry.
And it's not a town board mandate to basically deal with, Public Service Commission issues, but we've done that in town because we represent our community. I think Bill touched on this. We did this with the Utilities Task Force, and also with the Cablevision and Internet Task Force that we took place. There was a period of time, a few years back, where the storm damages and their response to storm damage was terrible.
But how come they didn't bill for that before? These are previous charges, like on that end of their that sheet, that part.
You would think they would, right? So, they basically have they approve a 30% increase, and part of running a telecommunication business is dealing with storms. But they essentially let them now take the storm activity out and bill that on top of everything else. And in that respect, I don't think they're respecting the ratepayer very well. The company is very profitable if you look at their their financials, and I don't wish them any bad will. I think that it's not my job right now to basically analyze their financial situation, and my job is to represent the taxpayer and go make sure that the Public Service Commission is not.
People are affected by this. They're going to leave Somers and the area. People are on, fixed incomes. People are, the younger people, they want to settle here. It's a beautiful community. They won't be able to afford, especially with the high interest rates of, purchasing a home. I think it's it really does affect you indirectly.
Yes, it does. It's the whole package. And so that's why, my thing is that, it's always about inputs and outputs. I made a career out of trying to create value, right? So when we're dealing with things, it's important that we don't tax up to our capacity because, you got all this other stuff going around. But if I'm not taxing up to my capacity, why are everybody else sort of respecting the community and saying, maybe affordability in my area is a little bit impacted by, what we're doing and how we're doing it. And so, so as a town board, we've been very active in all of this.
So before we conclude this episode, are there any other campaign talking points or a final message you'd want to share?
So, we're all running for office. I think that November 4th is election day. Come on out and support support us. I mean, we have, Rob has done a great job. Bill has done a great job. And I want to say Michelle McCarney, who always sort of kind of falls by the wayside in terms of when we're doing all of this. She's unopposed and co-endorsed, but she's an awesome tax receiver, and she does a great job. Get out and vote for us. Come on out, and we'll be happy to see you. We'll be out there shaking hands over the next week, and please come up and say hello.
Like you said, general election is November 4th. Early voting has started until November 2nd. What is your website, Facebook account that people can search and learn more about your campaign?
So on Facebook, Anthony J. Cirieco. On LinkedIn, there's also, Anthony J. Cirieco. And if you just come to the town and ask me, come and say hello.
There you have it, folks. Anthony Cirieco, Town Councilman of Somers, re-elect. Man of conviction, keeping Somers affordable, safe, and innovative. Thank you for coming on the show. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
If anyone, a business owner or individual would be interested in sponsoring future episodes, please reach out to us. Also, if you live in Westchester or Putnam County and you would like to come on the show as a guest to discuss any concerns, ideas, or even to promote an upcoming event, we'd love to have you. Thank you for watching the podcast Beyond the Ballot. Like, subscribe, and leave us your comments.
Thank you.